Hey guys. I wanted to kind of throw in some things about the Kenny Klein conversation. Ms. Canadian Witch, I think, was the first to post a video. Piper, I just watched Piper's response. And anyway, I've been following this since the news kind of broke. And unlike, I think, some of you guys, I was very familiar with Kenny Klein because I was a member of Blue Star for a number of years. I was a dedicant in that tradition in the mid-2000s, and Kenny Klein was instrumental in the spread and development of Blue Star, if not specifically the founding. I guess we could have a conversation about that. But anyway, so this news was particularly upsetting to me because while I'm no longer a member of Blue Star, I still have a number of friends in the tradition, and it's a tradition that I respect highly. By the way, I'm standing outside, so this is probably awkward and loud. But
she was telling Jordan about.
Anyway, so the news was particularly upsetting, and I want to make a couple of points. I really want to refrain from expressing a personal opinion as far as guilt or innocence or whatever. To me, the situation seems pretty clear-cut. He admitted to having child pornography on his computer, and I think the end result of that is going to be unpleasant for him. One of his publishers has already announced ceasing publication of his book with them. So anyway, but 2 points. One is there's a conversation going on, and this always happens when people do bad things, right? We want to disown them. When something horrible happens in a community, the first thing that happens often is that people go, oh, well, that person isn't a real Christian. They're not a real Muslim, right? After September 11th, this happened, where it was, well, the terrorists aren't really members of Islam, right? Which is kind of an absurd statement. The idea being that there's some kind of inherent, real, true tradition, and people who don't do it right they need to just be excommunicated or excluded, and we can disown them and thereby disown the things that are unpleasant about our community that we don't want to claim. But I think it's important to claim these. I think it's important to claim these kinds of wrongdoers. We have them in our community. Kenny Klein is a pagan. Kenny Klein is a Wiccan, and while his behavior is abhorrent, to make the claim that he's not one of us is, I think, to willingly blind ourselves to the fact that these kinds of problems exist around us in our communities. We're not immune to them just because we're pagan. We don't get to pretend that things like this don't happen. We don't get to draw a circle around who's inside and who's outside in these kinds of ways, because when we do that, we make it okay for us to ignore the wrongdoing that does happen, all right? And that just makes it easier for it to happen again in the future. So I think it's important that we acknowledge what's gone on, that we claim it, and that we work towards healing that and trying to keep it from happening again as best we can. And Ms. Canadian, which was talking about solutions and how do we go about dealing with problems like this when they arise. And I don't know that I don't know. I don't always know, okay? But anyway, so first point. The second thing I wanted to say, I've been following the conversation, and I wrote about this in my blog yesterday or the day before, and I'll link so you can see some of the links to these conversations. But I've been following some posts online from people more closely involved than myself, other pagans and particularly community leaders responding. And Zipporah Katz, who was Kenny's wife, she's been really out there along with one of his children, sharing their side of the story and speaking out. And one of the issues that's arisen is that, and this is before my time, so I'm probably going to get this part of the story wrong, but I guess these kinds of abuses were going on, and when Klein's family at the time tried to talk about them with their community, they were essentially silenced. And I'm like I said, this was before my time, so I can't speak to that. But I will say something about the process of silencing, because one thing again that happens, aside from the denial of the thing, right, the denial that the person is a member of the community, the other thing that happens is the denial of the possibility that something like this could even happen, right? Like, yeah. So I was involved in an abusive relationship for a number of years, and one of the horrible things about being involved in an abusive relationship is that people don't want to believe you. All right, people are shocked. Oh, that person would never do that. That person is kind. That person is active in the community. That person loves animals and children or whatever, okay? And people don't listen. I think we don't want to believe that people who are close to us or people who appear good are capable of horrible things. And the capacity for that kind of wrongdoing exists in so many more people and so many more places than I think we want to acknowledge or talk about all the time. And so I really just, like, if you take nothing else away from this video, I think it's to listen. If you've got people in your life who are saying these kinds of things, they're talking about being in abusive situations, children, women, men, like whoever, is to listen to them. That's not to say that everybody tells the truth all the time, or you should take everybody's word for everything all the time. But just that act of listening, when people feel heard, people are more likely to be helped. So never believe that someone isn't capable of something, because I think that's just naive. I think we set ourselves up to be hurt. So anyway, I'll just close by wishing the Blue Star community love, and condolences to everybody who's been impacted negatively by this, because this is a really big blow to not just Blue Star, but the pagan community as a whole. So that is all.